Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have another Sprocket Community Steel video. And today's video is going to feature, the first vehicle is going to feature the return of German Train. And today I have his S93, which I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a tank destroyer, but it looks and feels like a self-propelled artillery piece, especially since it looks like he tried to build, I don't know, an counterbalance system, actuator, not quite sure how to explain it, with fuel barrels, which is kind of an interesting thing. Now, I did have to use the cheat to get this vehicle to work in the scenario because, well, its internal space doesn't quite work. It's got a massive gun and way too much ammo for a gun so massive, but hey, it works. I believe it is a 152 millimeter gun, but I could be mistaken, and it's a very long, beastly gun. It's actually kind of funny because I'm going to drive around here a bit. I'm going to show you kind of a funny feature here of this S73 from German Train. Now, one nice feature he has is it does have a dozer blade, and oh my god, that recoil. Did you see the vehicle kick up like a mule? Here, let's see if I can get that to happen again. This one, actually, if you're trying to drive forward and you fire the gun, it actually starts to roll backwards, even if you're trying to drive forward. Or no, that may be a different one. This one just kind of stutters and kicks up in the air. So it's a pretty neat vehicle, and the dozer blade is kind of cool. Now, it's not like a full dozer blade. What it is it's like a dozer blade that's in front of the tracks. But it's definitely a cool feature. It's a cool thought of putting that on there. Now, one issue it kind of has is, well, it kind of clips through the hull. But, okay, it's fine. It's fine, I guess. And, well, I'm not getting up this way. There we go. Yeah, almost like hitting the turbo if you fire the gun while going in reverse. Alright, let's move on to the next one. And the next one is also another vehicle from German Train, and this is his TS-12. I believe it is supposed to be a Soviet self-propelled anti-tank gun. And, yeah, it's really fast. It's also got a hell of a lot more recoil than the chassis can handle. We're going to drive this around a little bit, and it is a turretless vehicle design with a gun shield on it, so that's pretty cool. It actually looks very Russian, in my opinion. It just seems like they just took whatever chassis they could and slapped a gun on it and called it a day. And I do believe, if I recall correctly, looking at the statistics, it is a 75 millimeter gun or a 76 millimeter gun on this little teeny tiny chassis that weighs next to nothing. It's got very little armor, but that helps it go quite fast. And as you can see, it can really get up and go. So it's definitely a little bit of a racer there. Now the next vehicle is the E110 by Almania. And it is kind of a larger, kind of a main battle tank type design, if you will. It is a quite large vehicle. The only thing I don't get, I think it's got to do with the turret range, is, well, there's nothing there on the sides. It just looks really weird. But actually, for a tank as big as it is actually slightly over 110 tons heavy. It's got a quite massive gun, and it fires on the move actually really well. It's actually got, the gun feels stabilized actually. It looks very German, to be honest. The only thing that kind of throws me off is the side skirts not being on the sides. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of weird seeing the turret range so large that it's actually, the turret range is actually larger than the hull itself. And the gun is actually quite powerful and quite accurate. It is kind of a neat design, in my opinion. Now, one thing I did see in the design is because of how the turret is designed itself, the tank has like 0 gun depression. But it's really thick armored. I actually took shots on the side from the Centurion that is in the game files that has the 105 millimeter gun, and it bounced. Yeah. Now the next vehicle here, we have a T-34-85M, and this is from Luca GMR. And he's actually, there's two vehicles from him in this one. But we're going to start with this heavier armored T-34-85M. And it's actually quite well armored. And actually the gun is quite good too. It's quite accurate, quite decent 85 millimeter gun. Probably quite a bit better than it really should be, but it's a pretty interesting T-34-85 design. He had to use plates to kind of round the turret cheeks out, so that way it looked more like a T-34-85. And then, of course, with the 85M, for those that aren't familiar, even though there wasn't that many of them produced, it was a thicker armored tank. Now, the tank I'm featuring now is the VC-297, and this is from Der Kaiser. And this is another, honest-to-God, really good tank. I rather like this one. It's really fast. It's really well armored. And that gun is actually ridiculously accurate. I actually hit with just about all my shots. And it does penetrate most of the time. You get those odd bounces with it, unfortunately, and that's got to do with mostly, well, operator error more than anything else. It does have a very low-cut design, so it is kind of reaching the modern main battle tank type stuff. Now, unfortunately, the sides and the rear are actually quite thin, and then I roll up on an enemy tank. Yeah. But as you can see there, I'm actually fighting a Cromwell, and the tank is actually lower sitting than a Cromwell. I also like how the engine deck is designed as well, so it's a pretty cool design. Not the best armored, but it works. Now the next one here, we have a VK-1004T from the light OD, and yeah, it looks like a Panzer III, to be honest. It kind of feels like a Panzer III. Well, a Panzer III with a 75 millimeter gun anyway. Or at least I believe it's a 75 millimeter. It feels like a Panzer with a derp gun. Okay, how about that? And I actually rather enjoy it. It feels actually rather good. It is an interwar tank, and it's definitely, I'm going to add this to the my tank collection as a tank that I can actually use and keep. Most of these I end up featuring them and never mess with them again, but I think this one I actually might keep around and mess with. I actually rather like this one. I like how it feels. I like how it drives. It drives really nice. Armor-wise, well, it's not the most armored tank I've ever drove, but, well, actually, early war German tanks really didn't have much in the way of armor, actually. They were quite thin-skinned vehicles. As you can see there, I actually lost my radio man. Get that derp gun going. And actually, for being a derp gun, the reload's actually not bad. It has like just enough penetration to actually work in the interwar period. I don't think by mid-war you'd want to be in one of these things. I just don't think it would have the penetration to combat the other tanks that you'd be facing off against, such as Shermans. But it's still a rather interesting vehicle, and I actually rather quite like it. It looks good. The next vehicle, this is another one from Luca GMR, and this is his Panzer F. Now this one I actually do have in my files and does actually spawn as an enemy vehicle. It's actually quite cunning how he made the front end look. It actually kind of looks like a Panzer II, and he was even able for the most part to hide the gunnery optic sight, because he's got a gun mantlet that doesn't have the gunnery optic. It's actually got one of the smaller gun mantlets where he has the gun mantlet off to the side, and then what he does have is he has the ball mount MG on the other side of the turret, and then he built armor plates around it to hide the fact of how he designed it, how essentially he put it together to make it work. And he came up with a really interesting, really authentic looking design And it actually does have the 20mm autocannon, although it's a bit slow firing, but we don't have actual autocannons yet, so that can be forgiven. The tank itself does drive really well and does handle really well. The only letdown is, well, yeah, the 20mm cannon, it's just, well, I mean, yeah, it penetrates most vehicles, but it just doesn't seem to do much damage. It takes usually multiple shots to kill an enemy vehicle with one of these. That being said, though, the thing I find with the autocannon is it's really easy for the vehicle itself to actually, that even if you miss your shot, you have plenty of time to put another shot down range at an enemy vehicle with it. So even though it doesn't fire as fast as an autocannon does, it still fires quite fast, especially to other vehicles comparative of the time period, where most vehicles in the interwar, early war time period would be mounting either 37 or 50mm guns. They just don't have the reload speed that this 20mm cannon has, and actually its accuracy is actually quite good. And it's a nice looking Panzer II design. It actually looks like a Panzer II. At least in my opinion it does. So anyway, folks, that's going to wrap up this episode of Community Steel, showing off 7 vehicles today. Remember to send me some more of those vehicles. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and have yourself a wonderful day.